I muted my YouTube audio just so I can. Hello, everyone. Can you see me? You can just say something in the chat if you can. I'm going to assume. See, we have Brooke, Angelica, and I think it's pronounced Rhea. Are you there? Are you able to hear?
Yep.
Nice. Okay, they can hear you. And so today is just a demonstration of nice. Yeah, so Derek, you because you're backstage, Derek, you may have to mute your YouTube um, because you're backstage, so you're hearing both audios. No problem, Derek. So you all, I just wanted to demonstrate this particular platform that we have been testing in AV, and it's called StreamYard. Before I do that, let me also introduce Vernon Haley. He is our classroom media specialist, and he's been someone that has been kind of spearheading some of the tests for me. I don't know if this is something that we'll be able to use in September. There are a few limitations. Thanks, Rachel. I see you've already. Did you throw that up there, Vernon?
Yes.
Okay, I hadn't gotten to that yet, but that's okay. So good to see you, Rachel. Glad you could join us. And so, however, I wanted individuals to have an opportunity, both in the National Health Equity Research webcast, as well as we have a representative from the dean's office as well. I know a few other individuals in the dean's office that I'd like to see. I would have liked them to have also seen the demo, but we can do that at a later date. But as again, this is StreamYard. What I'd like to do is I'd like Vernon, if you can bring in Derek and Rachel, who are sitting in backstage, actually. And so this is similar to if we were to have panel members. As he's bringing them in, you should see Rachel and Derek now on the screen, and you'll see the transition that was made. StreamYard and other platforms like this just give a more production value, in my opinion, than Zoom. I have participated in a few StreamYard events. They again have a much increased production value. There's heavy branding, as you see there. Vernon was able to include like the logo, easily the logo from Gillings, things like that. You just saw the transition of us including individuals backstage. We can include up to 10 panel members at one time. So in a moment, I am going to actually share a link so that some of you all can come backstage as well. In the meantime, also, Vernon showed you a little bit earlier. He highlighted, I think it was Rachel's, her chat. So if you can highlight another chat, if you like, Vernon, just pick something out there and highlight it. And then you'll see as he's highlighting, it puts the chat there on the screen. He's able to do that very easily with controls in the background. As I said, there's a few limitations. One is Zoom. Good question, Rhea. So not necessarily. The reason why I'm looking at this is that, thanks, Vernon. The reason why we're looking at this is that we are looking, I have been considering other platforms to set apart from normal Zoom presentations. Most of the Zoom presentations are for meetings. And so the program that we have every year and that we have now in the fall of each year, it used to be very, very high production value. It had a truck, had 5 cameras, things of that nature. So I don't know if we'll ever get back to that because of the cost involved. However, this provides something in the middle, if you will. Some of the limitations, though, however, is that Zoom has integrated a really good, for example, registration in Zoom. And this does not, we would have to use a third party. However, I think, for example, in our dean's office, we already use a third party, even when we do Zoom. I think, Angelica, you all use UNC's event registration. Am I correct? For most of the things that come out of the dean's office. And then the other big limitation for us right now is that we don't have it as a service right now. I mean, obviously, just think if so many people wanted to use this in the school, we couldn't facilitate all of those requests. However, excuse me. Thanks, Angelica. So, however, for example, Zoom is a self-service product, and we don't have to be so hands-on-y, if that's a term. So we haven't developed. This is still in beta, if you will. We haven't developed a service for the school yet. However, there are a few events that we probably could apply this to. So in the meantime, let me see. Let's just make sure we can hear Rachel and Derek. You all want to say hello really quickly?
Hello.
And while you all are doing that, I am going to provide because I think
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
And I think we won't exceed. Now I thought I had.
Hey, everyone.
Okay. What I'm going to provide right now in the chat is, I think you should be able to get to it from the chat. Those of you all who are there. Yeah, it was a little bit of lag. I don't know what happened there, but there might have been maybe one of their microphones is open or one of their, I don't know. However, I'm going to add this particular link in the chat. You can highlight that for me, Vernon. And I think each of you should be able to join that link, and you should get an idea of what this looks like a little bit in the background. Some of the instructions should be self-explanatory. And Vernon, if you could let me know when individuals come into the backstage area, if you will. And you don't have to bring them into production. You can just keep them back. You can bring them up backstage, though. Angelica, Brooke, Rhea, are you all having any issues with joining us backstage? And so, Rachel, I was out there looking at the YouTube version. So no, this private chat is just for the backstage.
Okay, and I can't, tell me if I'm wrong, but I can see the comments posted in YouTube, but from the backstage space, I cannot make comments. That has to be done in YouTube.
Exactly. That's another limitation as well. You'd have to answer in YouTube. Yes.
Got it. And I also, tell me if I'm wrong, I see you've got customization.
Actually, no, you don't. I'm sorry. There's the comment section. But I
can't make a comment though. I can see them, but I don't see any place to post from backstage.
Right. I think Vernon was telling me that before.
Okay.
Yes, I would need to make the comment for you.
There we go.
Got it. And can I ask too, OJ, I see that you've got some customization. You've got the, Gilling's icon logo. Is that something you added to your frame? I don't see those kind of customization things for my
Yes.
box.
Actually, you should see it. You should see what's going out on air.
If I'm not mistaken, Rachel, what you're asking is, did OJ put that logo in his specific video? And the answer to that is that's on just the presentation itself, the stream. I can put the branding in the top right, and it just so happens OJ's in the top right.
Got it. It just happens to be across OJ. It's for the entire frame.
Right.
Got it.
So some people said that they did not see this. Rhea, there's a link in the chat, and it should say StreamYard.com. Did you see that? Rhea, there's a Derek and Rachel.
I don't see the link either.
I don't either.
Okay, let's try again. Can you?
Yeah, I don't see that link.
There it is.
Okay. Okay, let's try again. Can you? So thanks, Vernon. Hello, Jackie. Thanks for joining. What I can also do is I can also email it to everyone. Yeah, Vernon hadn't talked a lot. He's a strong silent type. No. Vernon, can you say something just to make sure we have your audio in the production area?
Yeah, sure. I just put on my headset. I was using the laptop microphone. You guys should hear me a little better now.
Vernon, do you see any individuals joining backstage, the StreamYard link? No?
We have Rhea and Brooke backstage now.
Okay. Go ahead and bring them through backstage. And you actually can send them. Well, let's hold off until we put them in YouTube. Bring them backstage. Okay. So we can see them.
Brooke, Rhea, and Rachel's back here twice.
Okay. Not sure.
I tried screen sharing to see what would happen. So that's that second box, which people might want to see because it's Kiana's baby and big brother, and they're cute and adorable. So
why don't you, let's see if we can share that on the
there it is.
And then we can take that to YouTube. Hopefully
that is adorable.
Is that the cutest ever? There it is.
Right. And then we can take that to YouTube. Thanks, so the other thing we'd have to coordinate is people listening in YouTube and listening in the StreamYard as panelists as well. Were you able to bring in the others, Vernon?
They're still backstage. Do you want me to add them to the stream?
Yeah.
All right.
I certainly wanted that. Yeah, there you go. And Rhea, am I pronouncing your name correctly? You should be able to use your microphone now. I should be able to hear you. No, you can also use it with Facebook, and then you can also use it with a native streaming if you'd like. The one thing that I think they are testing and doing is they're trying to see how to do this. There is a way to do it in Zoom. However, there are some functionalities that, for example, you wouldn't be able to highlight the questions or the chat the way in which Vernon did. So the company did talk to us about them doing some stuff in Zoom, but that's still in beta as well. Vernon, are you able to add some more?
That's all that we have backstage right now.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Brooke and Oh yeah, I see
Yes,
Brooke at the bottom.
Brooke is here. Yeah.
Okay, and then Angelica, I think, said she would be right back.
Okay.
So, Rhea, do you have your microphone on? I see you talking, but I can't hear you though. Okay. I got that. Universal for 1 second. Oh, give me a moment. I think I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I can hear me now. I had to change my microphone.
No problem.
Right? Just to hold on. Okay.
It's good to meet you.
Yes, and you are saying it right. It's Rhea. Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Very good. Thanks. All right. And let's see. But I guess Brooke either has her camera off or she says she'll be back.
Yes, Brooke has her camera off and her mic muted currently.
So, Rhea, what were you saying that's pretty confusing?
Just, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm listening to you, all of us backstage. Yep.
Yeah, I hear you, Rachel. I think it's because of which tab I have muted, and I'm not sure which one to have.
Right.
So I'm just finding using this as on the back end, but then streaming it through YouTube. I just find that very confusing for people. Like, I feel like that would be very confusing both for presenters and for viewers, but I'm always open to new things. So but
yeah,
that's just my initial impression.
Yeah, no problem. So how I've seen it used is that panelists would never be on YouTube. You would just use
that makes a lot more sense.
I only gave individuals the YouTube link so that they can see how it would look as a viewer. You can see this is actually what the viewer would see as well. But I just wanted to allow people to see the difference between being a viewer and being a panelist. The programs that I've either been involved in or I've seen, the panelists have only used the StreamYard link to engage because they don't talk directly, or they don't hear the viewers. It's just a webinar, and for them to see the comments are here. As Vernon mentioned, the disadvantage, however, is that Vernon would have to send the chat. So, like, if you were to respond to one of the comments, you can respond in the private chat, and then he would have to send it out into the YouTube chat, which is a bummer, in my opinion. But so, Rachel, I know Derek, he said he just sent me an email, said his power went out. Did you all have any other observations?
I think the clear distinction between where the speakers are and the clear private chat aspect is nice. I haven't seen the YouTube side, but maybe just because I'm now Zoom trained all the time, the difference between this and Zoom and the functionality of the toggles, not being able to chat directly with people, and the customization, lack of customization on the speaker side, that part doesn't seem as nice as Zoom.
When you say the customization, what do you mean when you say lack of customization?
Well, so I'm thinking Zoom, when you can pick different backgrounds, you can blur your background, and maybe I just missed it when I logged on. I got to type my name and customize that, but it doesn't have any of those on-screen controls where you can click and adjust those settings. At least I haven't found them. Right.
Zoom has added, as we were in the pandemic, they really pushed the different backgrounds that individuals can put on. So
yeah, and I've seen people adjust their settings according to context, right? I'm with a cozy group, I'll just show my house here. I'm way more formal, I'm going to have my formal background. I mean, people can toggle back and forth, and that's become nice.
Right.
Right. Currently with StreamYard, you would actually need a green screen to have
And you
that
can
kind of
do it.
virtual background.
Yeah. That's the difference. As a matter of fact, I don't know what Zoom did during the pandemic, but before, I don't want to say only, but the backgrounds work best, and they still do with a green screen. But somehow Zoom was able to allow people to do background changes without the green screen, and so and it has become very popular. So I just didn't know what you meant when you say customized. So
Yeah. And I do like the way viewer comments show up right on the main screen for you to see as a panelist and sort of popping up who it is. That part is a little easier in terms of responding to people. If it pops up right in front of you, you can say, oh, so-and-so, yeah, as opposed to kind of visually trying to track both.
That was actually that was the first thing, the first StreamYard, and I didn't even know what they were using. But I went to a race and journalism event back in February, and the comment came up on the screen. I said, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "I have to find out what is this." So, yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. So, anything else?
I'm just curious. What are you what kind of feedback is especially useful to you from us?
Just from from some of the feedback that, for example, Rachel was giving just now, not only from if you were a panel member, but mostly from a viewer perspective. Currently, our webinars, we don't allow, we're limited because, for example, if we have hundreds of people, we don't have hundreds of people talking to each other. So I think we're used to that in Zoom, but I just wanted to see what are some of the things that we think would be barriers. I mentioned a few of them, or what are some of the things that you think viewers would like, or it would be enhanced. I think from a company or organizational part, I think people will like the branding a lot. It will allow your event to stand aside from other events that may be using Zoom. But I wanted to also get some of the user feedback as well.
I feel like I'm just, so just to give you some context, I'm coming from NC State, so I'm kind of new to Share. I've been here for about 2 months, and so I kind of became our resident Zoom meeting and Zoom webinar kind of like guru. So I'm like deep into the settings and what's possible. I hear what you're saying, and I mean I think this platform seems interesting. I really like what Rachel was mentioning, the being able to focus on one comment that's coming through from a user. I think that's a really nice feature, but otherwise I'm just not seeing how this improves on a Zoom webinar, especially when you have mixed panels. So one of the things I'm seeing with the branding, which, I'm a communicator, so branding is always important, but it's not showing up in the most visually pleasing way. Like the "we're on it" is kind of partially covered by one of the presenter videos. The square up in the right-hand corner is actually covering your UNC wordmark. There, it just went away. Thanks, Vernon. So that concerns me, but also with what Rachel was asking earlier, where she was thinking that square was on you. With NC State, and you could definitely do this for UNC. I'm sure some folks have already done it with UNC. You can create a background that is branded. So like if we're at Share, I can have it so that I have this really beautiful brand compliant, and it'll say UNC Share along the bottom, and then yours might say Gillings. I see Rachel nodding her head, so hopefully I'm making like good sense and saying good things. But I feel like that might also be, depending on the kind of webinars that you're hosting, be able to have your panelists individually be showing sort of like their affiliation without it becoming visually confusing or weird. And then of course I really do like for Zoom the way they integrate and the reporting on the back end for who's in your webinar, how long they stay. All of that is so beautiful. I just really like it. So I don't know that part of StreamYard. So I don't want to sound like I'm just like,
Oh, no,
everybody
no.
should
This
whatever,
is
but I
the,
feel like the way that they elevated it to the panelists, where participants aren't going to be on video ever. They're not going to be talking. They have the chat. They can chat to just the panelists, to each other, to the whole room. I feel like it's just a little bit more seamless than this seems like. And like to your point earlier about how much of a service would you have to provide and what would your
Great, thank
ask
you.
be, then I feel like with the webinar, the way that we did it, because it was an add-on, like a paid add-on to the institutional meeting account. So that was managed by a generic account that I managed. But once I set it up for somebody, they didn't need me. So I didn't have to be in their webinar. I would be if they asked me to, but I didn't have to be, but they would still have all the control, adding panelists, elevating people to panelist status if that became necessary or valuable during the meeting. All of that. It just feels like it just seems like a more seamless package that does all the things I feel like you're saying you're looking for, except for it does not have that one thing that Rachel liked too, which I do like, is putting that question right there so that it's sort of front and center for everybody's attention. And that I love doing this kind of stuff. So just tell me when I've given too much feedback.
no, that was great. Let me say that this is not to be used. I'm not proposing to replace Zoom. So much of the way, I think one of the reasons why Rachel was shaking her head is because most of the things that you mentioned, that's how we implement Zoom here, at least in Gillings. And I can't say that across campus, but at least in Gillings we do. As a matter of fact, Angelica is a great representative in her office, in the dean's office, is a great representative of what our individual users can do. As you said, at State, you all may set some parameters up for them, and then you've empowered your users through Zoom. They do those things on their own. And so that certainly, Zoom is a self-service type of platform that we have here. We have a few differences now. As of this week, the university now has taken over the Zoom accounts. And so it'll be even more self-service. And so we're anxious to see how that looks. There are a lot of benefits on the back end for the university and for some of the technicians like Vernon and myself. However, the jury is still out about some of the things. For example, in Zoom, when you do registration, you still have to hold the webinar token. And so I know the university has purchased, I don't know how it is at State, but the webinar, the university has purchased, a large amount of webinar tokens for the campus. I don't know how they're going to divvy that out. We purchased our own webinar tokens in the past, and we had to do this musical chair kind of thing where we allow people to hold on to the token as they scheduled. If they want to look at who and monitor who registered, things like that, they give it back to us through a form, and then on the day of, they use it. So I'm kind of getting in the weeds a little bit, but I agree, one, with most of the observations you had regarding Zoom, but this isn't to replace Zoom as a service. This is really only for those, and I guess you don't have the context of the program that we do that's outward facing from Gillings, like our annual webcast that we do, that most of the people online are members of the committee, or our diversity and inclusive seminars that we've been doing, for example. And so those are marketed to not just internal Gillings, and I would say not just internal UNC. It's many things that are forward or outward looking outside of the university is what I looked for an alternative to Zoom to be, something that would stand apart of our typical Zoom meetings. So this isn't something to be used on a regular basis, a regular meaning for meetings or internal webinars and things like that. So, but certainly, yes, all of the comments you've made, though, that's the type of feedback that I'm looking for sure.
Yeah, sorry, I missed some of what you were saying because I did,
Oh.
my internet kind of crapped out. But yeah, I think that UNC sounds like they're doing the webinar licensing and tokens a little bit differently than state. So what state was doing was, everybody had a Zoom account, and then if you wanted to kind of upgrade to a webinar account, you could do that at the individual level if your department would pay for it. We did it at the department level, and so within that license, we didn't have a limitation on the number of webinars we could do.
That's exactly what we did. There was a limitation only on it depended on the amount of webinar tokens that we invested in.
Okay. I think they kind of just made that a pretty high limit when we did it.
Right. So we in the school in the School of Public Health, we had maybe 5 tokens that range from 500 viewers, and then a couple of them. Actually, I forgot about it. For example, Rachel's group in the Institute, they had their own tokens that we purchased, and because they used them so much, I was only mentioning that as of Monday, they will no longer get the tokens from us. They'll have to get them from the university now.
Right. Okay.
And so I kind of like the hands-on approach that we had with the tokens in-house, because there was this back and forth. Users needed the tokens more than just the day of the event, and so we can kind of control that. It's going to be interesting to see what campus does on that level, the back and forth, and do they have the resources and enough people to do that. So, but it sounds like we ran the exact type of model that you were talking about from North Carolina State. So
yeah, and it was interesting. I mean, I think I will say too is just some feedback staying with Zoom and that route. This person was a difficult person, so for what that's worth. But we did have a couple people one person who really resented anything that I touched for any reason. But he really resented that he couldn't set up his webinars, the Zoom webinars that had to go through, because it was centrally managed through our generic account. It wasn't tied to his account. So, like I said, that was pretty basic. Like, once I did that, then he had 92% of everything that needed to be done. But if you have folks where that might be an issue, that would be something to consider too, because to add the panelists, he would have to tell me who those people were, and then I would go add them. But then once he would do his practice session like this or start it, then he didn't need me. It was just a couple of things at the setup. He really vehemently disliked that.
Well, it sounds like ours may have been just a tad different, because ours was on an individual account basis. We just
ours was just a generic account.
Ours was, we just provided the token on an individual accounts.
Oh yeah, so that is not how NC State.
Oh, okay,
They were doing it where the department would pay an extra fee, and you would just have an open webinar upgrade basically to the account, and you could put that to an individual account, but we had it to a generic account so that we weren't having to worry about doling out tokens. It was just the department account could do as many. And as I say, if you have people who are less collaborative is the word I would use for this individual, that could be a management issue. But the way you're talking about it, that wouldn't come up. So
we invested the same way. We just didn't have one generic account. We provided the token on individual accounts. But in something like this in StreamYard, it would only be for those collaborative type of events. It wouldn't be, I'm an individual and I just want to do this panel for my class, or it would, again, I haven't even thought how we would even facilitate that if we would allow everyone in the school to do that. We just don't have that many people to that's just a big workload. So, but this is a good conversation. It's good information.
I would definitely recommend an SOP or a standard that's like a flow chart. When would you use a Zoom meeting? When would you use a Zoom webinar? When would you, or something like this? Because I think sometimes people were like, "Ooh, I need a Zoom webinar," and I was like, "What are you doing?" And they were like, "Well, blah, blah." And I was like, "That's a meeting. Like, you don't need, like, there's no need for a webinar. You only have 15 people coming. It's like you don't have a panel of people. Like, it just, you know, I think sometimes people got really excited because it was new and cool, but it wasn't actually it wasn't indicated by what their actual need was. So I always recommend documentation for that kind of stuff, because it does help you all manage that workload of like, yeah, not everybody needs to ask for a webinar token because what you're doing isn't really a webinar, it's a meeting. So, but that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yep, no problem. So I know I don't want to keep you all long, and I have a 1 o'clock, but I didn't know if Angelica, did you have any feedback either about StreamYard or about the service, the Zoom service that we have in Gillen?
No, I would probably want a more one-on-one session for the StreamYard. It looks super smooth. I was trying to play around whether there were filters I could put or a green screen, and I think I'm using Firefox, and it's not this browser doesn't support it. So if I did want one, it's available, but I have to use Chrome. So I would want to just explore a little bit further. I really like how crisp it looks. Something that I've sort of wanted from our webinar features, it's more of a smooth transition rather than the sort of, it can be choppy. Anyway, so I like it. It looks good. We worked really closely with campus for our webinar on Monday. So we submitted a ticket, and then we had a similar experience to what Rhea was talking about, the gentleman. I'm like, wait a minute, we want to add panelists. We want to be able to run our reports. What's going on, campus? So we put in a ticket to learn more, and we were glad to hear that it would be pretty similar to how we were operating before, which allowed us control of panelists and reports and features. So I think we're good. This seems like a good option to explore further for like our fancier events. So I like it.
And so, Rachel, I was able to.
I can't hear you, OJ.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Oh, I just realized. So I put when you said you couldn't hear me, I put my email up. I wondered, did that play a role in you hearing me or not? But so Rachel, I saw the email about the tokens to Lou. So I guess that's very timely. There's not a purchase that you all need to make, however. And so I'm sorry, I've been out of the office for about a week. I just returned. I thought I had emailed you about that, but maybe not. So I apologize. But yeah, but the difference is that you're not holding that token anymore. So you have to put in a request for that token.
I just want to make sure we don't somehow lose our token or come up against an expiration I don't know about in order to contact campus centrally. So we keep it.
So apparently campus, I couldn't tell you the number that they purchased, but it's hundreds of tokens that they purchased, if not thousands. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm more of a proponent of, there are definitely some benefits that campus took the control of the accounts for us. You all don't get to see it, but there's a lot of back and forth that was going on, and particularly in Gillings, because we have a lot of individuals who work in dual appointments. So we did a lot of shuffling individuals between medicine, the Shep Center, here. And so now campus owns all of the accounts. So that virtually cuts that out for us. There's some other benefits without HIPAA, those who use the HIPAA accounts. However, one of the things I'm anxious to see of those is how they are divvying out the webinar tokens, because people like Angelica, and I guess you all as well, you all needed the tokens more for one event. You may need it several times to go back and forth and check things. So we'll see how that goes going forward. So, but you shouldn't have to worry about payments, and they shouldn't run out of any tokens. You should be fine, Rachel.
Thanks for clarifying.
No problem. Cool. Any other comments?
I would just say if you're if you have somebody, if you go with StreamYard and you have somebody coming in as a panelist, I would just make that like super clear from the very first thing that I would maybe tell people is if you have YouTube open, you're like, that's just for your FYI. It will not be like that the day of, because that took me like the first 5-10 minutes. I was like, why would I ever have it? I was like, this is super confusing and I hate it and it's terrifying. But I understand now what you were offering us. So I would just make that like super explicit for any of your panelists, especially who aren't familiar with it, because that really threw me.
Appreciate that feedback. And in full disclosure, I've just arrived here for a few days this week, and I'll be off next week. So I kind of hurriedly put this together. So I appreciate the feedback with that. Thanks.
Hey, no worries. I always like seeing something new. I'd never heard of this one, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why, one, it was forward thinking for the upcoming webcast we have in September, but I know that the dean's office, they sponsor quite a few of these type of outward going webcasts or webinars, and there has been a few discussions about it. In short, just having a little more of a distinction, pizzazz, something that is not kind of, I think Angelica used the term choppy. So I wanted them to get an opportunity to see it. There is I guess there's a recording of this. I can make that available. So Angelica, if you want to share that with the other individuals in the office, you can. I guess that's almost it. Anything else?
I don't think Angelica heard that offer. I think she jumped.
Did she? Okay.
I think she probably would really appreciate the recording. So.
There you go. Okay. I didn't. Vernon, did Angelica leave the backstage? I guess.
Yes, she's got something else she had to hop off for.
I think. Hey, Jackie.
I'm sorry.
I see Jackie is on. She's on the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rhea.
When you're in the backstage, so like I know you are having Vernon, like, so it's telling me like I'm in the show and everybody can hear and see me. So like if a panelist is not wanting to be active or doesn't need to be active for a bit, can we just have Vernon like would I stay backstage and be able to see folks even if I weren't like broadcasting?
Vernon, go ahead and show what that would look like.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll send you backstage now.
Well, she was backstage actually, Vernon.
Well, using StreamYard's verbiage, this is the stream we're all in right now, and now Rhea is in backstage.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now that's a little confusing, but okay. So why don't you bring her?
It looks like she wants to talk, so I'll bring her right back in.
Oh, yeah.
Add her to the stream.
Okay, so Vernon was the host, and only he can see me when I'm backstage. Okay, that's really clear on my side as a panelist, so that's what I was looking for. Thank you, Vernon. Thanks, OJ.
Cool.
But it sounds like maybe for the not host panelists, it might be weird when one of their panelists is backstage, but they can't see them.
Well, I think one of the confusions I had is I've only been talking to you all in StreamYard backstage. I didn't realize that I guess you all have been talking to me I don't know if you were looking at the YouTube layout or. So I think there are actually 3 areas. There's the YouTube that only participants would see. There's StreamYard, which we as panelists can all see.
but there's a backstage within
Right.
the StreamYard
Right.
so that
Yeah.
YouTube wouldn't
Yep.
see me.
Yeah.
And it is a little disorienting because OJ and Vernon, I think you can see everybody in the backstage area, but when you're in the backstage area, like I couldn't see Derek earlier. You all were talking to him, but since we were both backstage, as another panelist, I couldn't see Derek. I could just see y'all. It was like, where's Derek? You're talking like he's here, but I don't see him. So
Got you.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
you-
So I
there's
think,
eyes.
and so I just assume everyone was seeing everyone backstage. I think that's just something Vernon had to make happen. And I think he just did not do that. And he just needs to make everyone see everyone.
Well, the way it's designed is so that backstage is only the host essentially can see people on backstage, and then almost like a green room. I guess everybody has essentially their own green room, and I'm inviting you to center stage essentially.
Right.
So if
Hey,
so
Rachel,
like,
thanks. The other Rachel. It's good seeing you or seeing your seeing your chat. That was Rachel Quinto in the chat. She was saying she needed to pop off. So yeah. Again, I just wanted to get an opportunity to show the people on the webcast committee this particular, because we had talked about it earlier. This was the platform that I was referring to. And then again, as I said, I had some people from the dean's office. I had Angelica from the dean's office. And then we had a really good addition today, Rhea. So Rhea, really appreciate all the comments and feedback. And so I will, again, we'll have this as a recording. And so I can make that available. And I guess we'll be talking, I guess. Sounds good.
awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Vernon. Appreciate you.